I've had a lot of people contact me about this issue, about Christians having trouble in this society, in this culture that we live, in our churches, schools, society in general, where we're at in this country as far as Christians getting beat up everywhere. And specifically now, this item of weak male leadership in Christian circles. So I put together a Templar series, and this is the first one of those. Just wanted to kick this off a little bit, get started in some things, and go with that. And the outline I'll be using on that is pretty extensive, so I've got a lot of material, a lot of content. And one of the things that we're working on in this is this whole thing about, we want to put a lot of these principles into play and talk about that, but we want it to be in a Christian platform. Okay. We want to have it in a PG-13 environment, so to speak. There's enough people out here, all over the internet, all over YouTube, any book you want to buy, that has the lowest common denominator of guttural talk, coarse joking, these types of things. But I feel like with our audience being primarily Christians, okay, I think we can do better than that in terms of how we look at things, in terms of our terminology, in terms of how we discuss things. And I think we can keep that above board and still get our ideas across without any equivocation, without any doubt about what we're trying to do here. And what we're trying to do here in this, what I'm going to call the Templar series. It's a series of mastermind groups. Initially, I'll just be starting that out on my own, and I'll be joined by a lot of people online, either in comment sections or in other platforms that happen around conferences, breakout groups, however those mastermind groups set up. These are things I want to be working on. And so I just want to get that kicked off. I got a topic today that I really wanted to just start with, just kind of an introduction, as we work through this outline. Again, wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page about this. Again, viewership primarily directed at Christian audience. This idea that men have such a hard time with, and really not sure about how to express themselves, as men have been beaten down everywhere, beaten down in homes, beaten down in their jobs, careers, schools, in society. And so I want to move in that direction. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that in a way that doesn't get censored, because everybody will be upset and offended and feign injury and all that kind of stuff? And so then everyone will try to take us off the air and do those kinds of things. So how do we have a real open, honest discussion about where we're going in this country and what's happening? What's happening with the church? What's happening in individual families, marriages? And how do we address those things in a way that'll have some stickiness, in a way that can be transmitted around for discussion, for development? So that's really where I'm at. Really where I'm at today, and just wanted to get started on this. First topic, really, that I'm going to start with on this, and I guess it's one of these things we kind of look at when you look at why am I even doing this? What would prompt me to do this type of thing? And I guess it all comes back to this idea that men are frustrated. Then they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do without everybody running at them, accusing them, blaming them, saying, we've offended everybody, don't you know? And so a lot of guys, some good friends of mine, have gone out into the woods and pulled a trigger, and they're no longer with us. And I got tired of seeing all that, all the ruined lives, all the dashed hopes, all the dreams. They got kicked to the curb. And so as I looked at all that, I said, I think I've got some things that would help in a lot of ways. And that's really where I wanted to start on this, okay? And what I say on this is that we can all stay in our families, our groups, our churches, and argue about this thing and that thing and the other thing, and argue about what's scriptural, and argue about who has control, and these kind of things. And in the meantime, there's still a guy out in Kansas right now as I'm talking, this day, December 8, 2018. It's about 5:15 here where I'm at, and as I'm talking here, there's still a guy out in Kansas trying to find a gun, trying to find out how he can go pull a trigger and end his hopeless life. And it's such a tragedy to live that way, without hope, without any answers, to feel all alone. And as I try to reach out to that guy, not a particular guy, not a specific guy, but in many ways it is, because there's guys on every street corner like this in our country, in our churches, in our families. What do? How do we reach them? How do we reach them? And I would say that to reach him, we go through several different steps to do that. And to reach this guy in Kansas, we might get this call at 3 a.m. And I'm going to call it a Jayhawk call. The Jayhawk, the Kansas Jayhawks. So this guy in Kansas, this Jayhawk, this mythical guy, trying to find a way to end it all. How do I reach this guy? So when you get a call at 3 a.m., your 3 a.m. Jayhawk call, I'm going to call it. You get your 3 a.m. Jayhawk call, and how do you reach this guy? What do we do? How can this happen? And the first thing is, I would say, is that you have to have rapport. You have to have rapport. And to have rapport means to make a connection. How do we make a connection on that? How do we get through to this guy in short order so that we can start to build dialogue? Okay. How do we do that? And so this is where we start. We've got to build rapport. We've got to have dialogue. So number one is on the Jayhawk call. The 3 a.m. Jayhawk call, we have to build rapport. That's number one. Okay. Number two is, when I look at this, we've got to have empathy. And you've got to have empathy because there's a better than even chance that this guy is dealing with some shame somewhere. Okay? And when you add empathy into this whole situation, this whole dialogue, you add empathy. Empathy creates a hostile environment for shame. So you got to have empathy. Number one, empathy. Or number two, empathy. Number one, again, is building rapport. Number two, you've got to have empathy here. And sometimes it's hard to set tone, body language. If you just remember that, get a visual that you can treat everyone just like they are coming from a funeral. That might help you to get into character a little bit better. Number one, build rapport. Number two, have empathy. Number three, have conviction. Have conviction. So if rapport has been established, the person with the most conviction will rule the day on this thing. So you've got to have conviction. Okay? Now, there's a couple areas you can go here that might help you to get some payoff on this. Again, if we're trying to help this guy, this Kansas guy, with our 3 a.m. Jayhawk call, we only have about 7 minutes to make a difference. If we can't get to this guy, if we can't get him to hope in 7 minutes, then we're going to lose on this. Okay? Number one, again, is build rapport. Number two, you have to have empathy if you're going to knock that shame out. Got to kill the shame. Okay. Number one, empathy. Number one on that, build rapport. Number two, empathy. Number three, you got to have conviction. Okay. Now from there, I would just talk about some timelines on here. Again, this call, get a suicide call like that, this Jayhawk call, you only have maybe 7 minutes. You might have 8, but we're just going to say 7. That's a number we all like. We can go with 7. In the first 2 minutes, you've got to be able to build rapport in that first 2 minutes. Okay? So that's where you've got to go. You've got to get him talking. How do you build rapport initially? How do you build rapport? I'll tell you, as far as guys, one of the things that we know, there's a very high probability that there's a problem in the sexual realm. And the other thing that has a very high probability is that this area of shame. And so I'd say with a high certainty, you can get to most guys and their problems of this magnitude. You can get to most guys through either sex or shame. Now, sex can go in a lot of ways. That can be rejected at home. That can be a dead Christian bedroom. That can be some kind of an addiction. Okay? So we can open up a whole can of things there. In shame, that really is such a universal thing that it falls into about everybody's lap somewhere. So in the first 2 minutes of this call, remember, we only have about 7 minutes. And so I just say in the first 2 minutes, you've got to pick some topic, and you might as well start in with what we call an A-B scale, an alpha-beta scale. So I'd try to get into an A-B, an alpha-beta conversation right away within 2 minutes. And you can do that. You can talk about how you're not respected in your own home. You can talk about how family problems have come up. You can talk about how you have rejection in the bedroom. These kinds of things will drive anybody to looking for a gun and trying to find a pathway out to the woods. Okay? So when we look at this, you've got to get to discussions on an A-B scale. A-B, you got on a horizontal, you got a line there. You got out on the right side, your alpha side, He-Man stuff. On the beta side, on the left, on your horizontal, and you draw a line there. And when guys started dating, when they were early married, they were more over on the alpha side. But with societal pressures and trying to help around and be a nice guy, they slid down the alpha-beta scale. They slid down toward the left on the beta side. And as they did that, they lost the respect of their wife. Their wife now doesn't respect a wimpy guy, doesn't respect a nice guy like that. And so they slid down over a number of years toward the beta side. And unbeknownst to them now, that created a situation where their wife despised them. And no woman anywhere is going to get excited about sexual activity with a weak man. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Similar situation with the guy. He's not going to get excited about a woman who's not attractive to him. So as we talk about that on the guy's side, attractiveness, it works on the woman's side with strength. And so they can't do that. And so, but he didn't know what was happening. He didn't know how this worked. And so all this happened. And next thing you know, there's no sexy time, and everything dried up. And now he's rejected, feels like a failure. And you can get there in 2 minutes on this Jayhawk call, believe me, you can get there in 2 minutes. Sometimes they start in and they say some things, and they'll have trigger words. They'll have trigger words like, family's a mess. My wife doesn't listen to me. We're arguing all the time. These are things that lead anyone to believe who's paying attention to language, these trigger words, that there's some problems in the bedroom. There's some problems with respect. And these are common in today's society with men. So I'd go to the alpha beta side and start that conversation. What you will find, if you ping that alpha beta side, what you'll find, guys will ask questions like, well, you know what? Actually, yeah, that's right. How did you know that? How do you know all this stuff? Okay. And you don't have to know everything. You just have to get them to extend that call. So the first 2 minutes on this 7-minute Jayhawk call, what we know is if you can get to either sexual conversation to help them alleviate that deal where there's so much shame around, if you can help them get there in 2 minutes, or this topic of shame within 2 minutes, you'll win. And you'll help another guy get to see another sun when it comes up in the morning. So you can go to the AB scale, or you can go shame. On the shame side, what you've got to do on that, explain how the shame hierarchy works. Shame hierarchy, 4 parts. This is a good place to go. You can go here with anybody and it'll work, because it's felt by everybody. It's universal. At the top of the scale, you have guilt. That's a fleeting thing, but that's more about an action. Guilt. You stole a Snicker bar, you stole some kind of a deal, you did a bad thing. As opposed to real shame, which is on the bottom of the scale. Shame is like you're a bad person. So guilt up on top. And on top of guilt number 2, number 1 thing is on top of their embarrassment. Embarrassment. Only they're temporary. Okay, it's only there temporarily. That's like, you know, you had toilet paper on the bottom of your shoe as you came out of the bathroom. So up top then, you have these things that are based on actions. Embarrassment, number 1 on top. Number 2, guilt, that we talked about, based on actions. Number 3 is more into feeling, and this is humiliation. Humiliation. Somebody made you feel terrible. They laughed at you, they bullied you. This thing you can talk about to people, humiliation, because someone else made you feel this way. That's number 3, humiliation. Number 4 is shame. So this hierarchy of shame, on top embarrassment, then guilt too. Number 3, humiliation. Number 4, shame. What happens about shame? That's about you're worthless as an individual. That's how you feel. You have no hope. Shame a lot of times starts out as humiliation. And if you don't get rid of that humiliation and have a pattern interrupt, it'll morph into a deep shame. Now, shame is different than humiliation. Humiliation, again, remember, you can talk about because someone else made you feel that way. So you don't own it yet. But with this deal about shame, a lot of times that humiliation will morph into shame because you didn't throw it off, throw the humiliation off. So you put yourself in this shame prison, we call it. Now, it is true that people can dump shame gravy all over you. That's true. And it can get into every orifice. It's awful on the shame gravy. So one of the things that we say is, as you put yourself in this shame prison, this deserve prison, you feel like you deserve it now because you own it. But you also have the key to let yourself out of this. And really, for shame, you're the only one who can let yourself out of this. It's like on the Pirates of the Caribbean, when Jack Sparrow was in the prison, and Will Turner came to let him out. And he said, how'd you do that? He said, I made these doors. And he put the right leverage in the right place with the bench there, and he popped the doors off. We can do that with our shame also. We have the keys for the shame prison, this deserve prison, and we can let ourselves out. And it's powerful when you get this concept. So back to my 3 a.m. Jayhawk call, suicide call comes in. Some guy from Kansas out trying to figure out how to end his worthless life. That's how he feels. 7-minute call. All you're going to get, guys, is 7 minutes. So in the first 2 minutes, you've got to get somewhere with the dialogue. Remember, a few points on this Jayhawk call. Number 1 on this, got to build rapport. Number 2, you got to have empathy. Number 3, you got to have conviction. And within 2 minutes, you've got to either figure out if this is sexual in nature, talking about disrespected in the home, the kids, the wife, the bedroom, something's causing it. You can either go that way, and on sex you can use the alpha-beta scale. It opens up a lot of conversation. You can go that way, or you can go into the shame hierarchy. Either way. And if you're following along at home, you can take some notes. That shame hierarchy starts up on top. Number 1, embarrassment. Number 2, guilt. Number 3, humiliation. And on the bottom, the worst of the worst is shame. And we have it all over us as people have dumped the shame gravy on us, and we don't know how to get rid of it. So you've got to get there within 2 minutes of this 7-minute Jayhawk call. The other timeline that I would say, by the 4th minute, remember again on this Jayhawk call, 7-minute call, by the 4th minute you've got to get to hope. They have to have hope somewhere within 4 minutes. Okay? Got to have hope within 4 minutes. If you have the right amount of empathy, and you talk about they're not alone, this is a common problem, that's what we call empathy. You bring in that AB scale, and you talk about some of these issues related to alpha, beta, about leadership, about sexual issues, or you go shame, within 4 minutes they'll have hope. Believe me, within 4 minutes they'll have hope. Now, if you get them to 4 minutes and they have hope, you'll have a longer call than 7 minutes. You win. Some other guy, because of your conversation here, will get to see the sun in the morning as you've given him hope. And he can move on. And that's how that works. One of the things you've got to remember, you can't do this all on the phone, and you don't want to pass them off to someone else. They might give you a niche topic that you're not qualified for, and that's fine to bring in somebody else, but they called you, they contacted you, you're the one who has the rapport. Don't send them off to somebody they don't know. Okay? You still want to move to a face-to-face appointment. You want to move toward a face-to-face so they can have some buy-in, have some skin in the game on this. So if you can get there, okay, get to your AB scale or shame, either one or the other, within 2 minutes. You can get to hope within 4 minutes. This will be a good call for you. It'll be a good call for them. Within 7 minutes, this has got to be done. It's got to be done, guys. That's my first topic on this for the Templars, as we're trying to save guys, reach guys for Christ out there. All these problems in society, in their jobs, families, bedrooms, careers, kids, everything piles up, and guys are shamed all over the world, all over the place. TV, newspapers, media, audio, wherever you go, guys are shamed, and they feel worthless, hopeless. So I want to start out with this one. It's pretty edgy. It's a visceral topic, but it's impacted everyone, some way or another, relative. A dad, a father, a brother, a cousin, a friend, a coworker, whatever. Again, the 3 a.m. Jayhawk call. I'll go ahead and end it for here. Look for some more calls coming up. Some more topics. Some more videos. Thank you for listening, as we're going to go into some scary places for a lot of people, because guys live in scary places. And so I'm going to say thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your 5 minutes here, 7, whatever it was. And I'll look for you another time. Have a great day.